Now, there's something that I find quite fascinating, and it's the fact that people will have seen, like, you know, physios and such like before they'll come to see me, or they'll maybe be just talking generally about physio, and they'll say that, oh, I tried physio and it didn't work, so I then had surgery as an example. And I find this fascinating because it's like as if trying physio is just one thing. Like, oh, physio, I've done it. I've exhausted it. I've done everything you can possibly do within physio. And it's like, physio is massive. Physio is really broad. There's so much to it. And even within the same techniques, there's different, therefore, doses. So even like if you was like, I was given exercises and it didn't work, it's like, well, have you tried every exercise that exists on the planet? Have you tried every repetition range, set range, load, different style, and so on and so forth? And the answer is always going to be no, because I mean, it's impossible. But this means that people aren't exhausting the conservative methods first before jumping ship and going, well, we need to do surgery or something more drastic, of course. Now, I'm not saying surgery isn't needed in certain cases, of course, but people do seem to jump ship quickly and want to try something drastic, which may also not be as good or as successful as they might originally think. So the thing is, a good example of thinking about physio and also thinking about trying different things is people will come along and I'll see an individual. So I'll choose the treatments for that problem that obviously are aligned to the causes of that problem in that individual based on my assessment, but also what is researched to show the most likely effective treatment first. And this is because it's just the best way of going about it. If you've got a treatment modality for a particular condition in a set of circumstances that's been shown to be effective in 90% of people based on research, then you're going to try that versus the one that's been shown to be only effective in 10% of people. Now, the thing is here, this is where it gets more interesting about exhausting physio, is that you will try this treatment with an individual and it's basically not effective. It doesn't work for that person. So that person then could be inclined to go, physio didn't work, and off they go. The thing is though, is that they could be in the 10% on that particular research paper as such. So it will not work for them, and there was no knowing that beforehand. It's just the way that the human body is. So what this means is that they will need to then try something else. Now, as a physio, next thing you're going to try is the next researched high probability modality. So you'll try that with them. And again, they could still be in the small minority. Say it's like 80%. Well, they could be in the 20% that it doesn't work for. So again, it doesn't mean physio is not going to work because that's only 2 things you've tried out of the entire remit of physio. Now, you could even go all the way down to the point where the thing you would barely try on anybody because it's highly unlikely to work isn't impossible to not work, because in that study I mentioned before, say it was this piece of research shows that 90% of people do not get effect from this treatment and 10% do, they could be in that 10%. And until you try that treatment with them, you're not going to see that effect. And the chances of you actually pursuing something long enough to get to that point again becomes unlikely, because we're naturally impatient. We want to be recovered as soon as possible. We want to get back to sport. We want to get back to work. We want to do all these things, and we need to. But it means that we don't actually fulfill the potential of what is potentially going to work. Everyone is different, and we sometimes have to go with the higher likelihood stuff first, because otherwise we're going to be more ineffective on mass, on average. But people aren't average people, so you need to go at them in a, we do this, that's not working. That doesn't mean physio won't work. We need to try something else, and so on and so on. Because if you said to me, right, if you were to do this and then this works and it's a conservative treatment, you got better, as opposed to having surgery, which is risky, which may not work, which is a very invasive thing. I'm going to go for this if I know this is going to work. The difference is we don't know anything, do we? So we have to take a leap of faith, and we have to try things based on advice and expert opinion. But the expert opinion you usually go to when things aren't working is the surgeon. But it's like, they're a surgeon, so they're going to say, surgery, and they'll have a lot of faith in surgery, as they rightly should, because they're a surgeon. But it's like, if you're going to a hammer, everything's a nail. So you therefore are a surgery candidate as soon as you see them. So they're thinking, what can I do for this person? in a surgical way. And remembering they're an expert in surgery, but they aren't an expert in physio or in conservative measures, because it's impossible to be an expert of more than one area, really. You have to dilute your knowledge if you do that. So what you've got to remember next time you think physio isn't working is, have you tried all the physios? Have you tried all the different modalities? Have you tried everything under the sun? And the answer is going to be no. Now, obviously, I know that in the private sector that can run up being expensive. Obviously, the NHS doesn't necessarily offer that ability, because they have to, be as efficient as possible, or at least they cannot see you for a longer period of time. So this is why a lot of people will go, they discharged me from physio in the NHS and I wasn't any better, and they said, go back to my GP. That doesn't mean they couldn't have been successful, they just aren't able to, because they haven't got that ability of time. So anyway, so have a think about that. If you ever have a problem, have you truly exhausted physio? But it just bugs me because people say physio didn't work. I've had physio, and it's a bit like saying I've had doctor. Like what? All of medicine has been done to this individual. It's impossible. And I think that's what's so weird. It gets used in the wrong sort of ways and interpreted in the wrong sort of ways. So anyway, that's it for the video, and I'll see you next time.